I know over the last couple of weeks, my videos have kind of been a little bit dark. It's showing the raw side of how I feel and what's been going on over the last number of months, and in some cases, years. And I'm gonna share my feelings about what I really think about running slow and heart rate training, things that I haven't really talked about before, and I think some of them may be a little bit shocking to you to hear me say. I'm David, the plant-powered runner. I've been using the Maffetone method, aka slow running, heart rate training, for about 4 years. I've learned a whole bunch about running slow. I've been able to get 3 minutes faster a number of years ago per kilometer. I've also been able to run a 50 miler. That was a heck of a long ultra marathon, I'll tell you that. And for those of you who do not understand what the Maffetone method is, basically it is training using heart rate. And the way this method works is you take the number 180 minus your age, and that is going to be your heart rate that you're going to run at, no higher. And you've got like 10 beats. So that's your max number, and then you go down 10 beats, and then that's your low number. That's where you're going to run while you spend the time to build your aerobic base. And there are a few other things to do with, if you're on medication, you got to reduce, and if you're overweight, you have to reduce certain beats per minute. But again, don't get stuck in the weeds. That's just kind of where you start. I've got other videos on my channel that kind of go more in depth, but essentially that's kind of what I'm talking about. And essentially you're going to be running for a number of months using this method to build an aerobic base that is going to allow you to run faster and longer at the same low heart rate over time. Over the years, there's been a lot of ebb and flow to this whole process. Sometimes I'm enjoying it, sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I just get so frustrated that I give up. Sometimes I'm like on top of the world going, this is the best thing ever. So I wanted to share with you my real thoughts and who can benefit using this method. And I want to do it in a very thoughtful manner, because I know each and every one of us is different. We don't all come from the same running background. Our bodies are very different from each other. Our experiences are vastly different. Our thoughts and feelings about training, running, eating are all very different. So what works for one person may not work for another. So just wanted to preface that. I'm also no doctor or physiologist. I'm just a dude who has a lot of experience using this method, and I just want to share for anyone who's thinking about using the Maffetone method, heart rate training, slow running, zone 2 running, whatever you want to call it. Because there are some great things about it, and then there are some not so great things about it. Now I need to tell you a short story just to give you a little bit more context. When I started using this method, I'd been a runner for about 4 years maybe. And in that time, I had never really run slow. I'd always run fast. And when I was training for my marathons, I always found myself just like getting burned out or picking up some running related injury. And being new to it, I didn't really know what all of these things meant. So I started to go see chiropractors and stuff with doctors, and they would always say, you know, like, running is not good for you. It's not good for your knees. You should just walk. And I'm like, okay, I understand, but I don't want to walk. I want to run. And the reason why I wanted to run was because When I first started off, I was walking. I was walking to lose weight. I wasn't aiming to become a runner. That was not in my wheelhouse. I just thought I needed to make some changes to my life because I was fat, sick, overweight, my joints hurt. I was just, I don't know. I was a cheeseburger away from a heart attack, so to speak. So I walked, and over time I ended up walking like, I don't know, it's like some days it was, I eventually got up to like 6 miles, 10 kilometers, and I'm like, it's kind of taking a while, Dave. I need to get out for my day. I don't want to wake up earlier, and I gotta get to work. So how can I speed this up? And so I signed up for Learn to Run at my local running store in town. And over the course, morning, how are you?
I'm good.
That's good, man. Have a good one.
You too.
And over time, I learned to run 5K without stopping. Hey everyone, it's day 7. And today, I just ran my first 5 kilometer without stopping. So that is like a first for me. So I'm so excited. Yes, and it's the first time I've actually done a night run as well. So things are moving along. And you know, so my pace was 6 minutes and 17 seconds. But I did intervals of running for 4 minutes, walking for 1. And I did that, and my time on that was actually better than tonight. So tonight I finished it off, I think, in 31 minutes. And the other day when I did the intervals, I finished off 30 minutes and 50 some odd seconds, or I don't know, somewhere around there. I did a race and I was hooked. And that started my journey into running. Now, I ended up signing up for a couple of marathons, completed both of them, did extremely well. And my first one, like 3 hours and 30 plus minutes was my first. Second one, not so good, but I won't get into that one because I hit the wall pretty bad. I was sick for a week leading up to the marathon, so I'm sure that didn't help. Now, after that, things went sour. I didn't run, kind of gave it up. I was really discouraged, right? A lot of family dynamics were coming into play. Life was not going the way I wanted it to. And I just felt like it was just too much to even get out for a run. Now, when I decided to come back to running, when I decided to put myself first, it was in the fall of, it's actually September of 2019. And I decided I didn't like how I felt, how I looked, how my brain was operating. And I thought, okay, I gotta make some changes because no one else is gonna do it for me. So I started on this path of using the Maffetone method. I started using Ultra Torrens. I started using the Coros Apex at the time. I decided to just totally change up everything. And then heart rate training, Maffetone training, that was what I was gonna do. You know, and I staked it in the ground and said, this is what I'm gonna do. This is how I'm gonna get fit. And man, did I ever. Like, less than a year later, I was already 2 minutes faster. I had dropped, I don't know, probably about 25 pounds. I was just in pretty epic shape. And then by the end of the year, I was like 3 minutes faster, and I had dropped even more weight. I don't know, I think it was like 35 by the end of it. But man, I was just like, you know, ultra marathon under my belt. Life was good. But I then picked up an injury because I started running too soon, too fast after my first ultra marathon. And that really kind of kicked me to the curb. And then over the next number of years, it was kind of up and down a lot of the time, right? You know, 2021 is like a year of trying to get back into it, dealing with recovery. And then the following year, I ended up getting a puppy, so I was only hiking because I didn't have the time. But then my puppy had to be put down because he had a brain tumor or something after 6 months. So at the end of 2022, started running like 90 days in a row. That was awesome. Started to feel like my old self again. And then 2023 happened. It was just, you know, there was a lot of stuff happened in 2023, but let's just say, you know, it was a really, really hard year. And then here we are in 2024. And now I'm back to running, but you know, I realized I was kind of lonely. My job is very independent, work with a lot of clients. Being a realtor, it's, you know, you're out of the house a lot of the days. You're an independent contractor. You're doing what you can to help people buy their house or sell their house. That's a very stressful endeavor. And then my wife also got sick in 2022, or it was kind of the beginning of 2022. So it was all these things that were happening. And anyways, I just needed some friendship. So my business partner and I, we started biking together, and that's been really helpful. Now, I've given you that long context. I think it's important to understand the context of kind of where I'm coming from with my thoughts. So here it goes. First thing you need to understand is it's gonna take time to see results. This is not a quick fix type of thing where you're gonna see massive results very quickly. It's gonna take a period of months to build up that aerobic base. But in time, you will be able to run faster at that same low heart rate. The weather plays a huge impact. Hot and cold, your heart rate fluctuates. Think of it as you're filling up a gas tank, right? Volume is always corrected to 15 Celsius. That's kind of like our body. Our body runs well at a particular temperature. And I find the temperature it works extremely well at is around anywhere between, you know, 0 degrees and about 10, 11 or 12 Celsius. And this is what it is in Fahrenheit for all my wonderful American subscribers. Now, if we're talking about heart rate training, we also need to understand that hills. If you're a mountain runner, if you live in a hilly area, yeah, that is going to make a big impact on how you train using the Maffetone method, even zone 2, like any of these things, right? Heart rate training is very unforgiving. But if that's the method that you go down to train, you need to know all these things matter. How windy it is, that's going to have an impact. If you've got a headwind, that's going to be hard to deal with. Everybody loves a good coffee. I do as well. However, you would have to do that after a run, because here's the thing. Caffeine raises your heart rate. Everyone's different, but it certainly raises mine by a good anywhere from 5 to 8 beats after drinking a cup. So that being said, if you're using heart rate training and you're drinking coffee and it's not decaf, then you're in for a world of trouble trying to keep your heart rate low and run. If you're overweight, it complicates things even more, which is typically one of the reasons why most people start running in the first place, is they want to lose weight. So they turn to running thinking that's going to help them. And yeah, it does to a degree, but if you don't couple that up with changing what you're eating and how much you're eating, then yeah, you're in a world of trouble again, because the weight isn't going to come off and you're going to get extremely frustrated with the process, because you're going to be walking and then running and then walking. It's a tough one, because you're going to be heart rate training and you're going to be ultimately burning your own fat storage as fuel. However, if you start running too fast, you're going to be burning carbohydrates. So those are the two fuel sources that you're going to be dealing with. So ideally, by running slow, you're triggering your body into the process of burning fat as fuel. And then in turn, you're able to go longer and further and faster in time, all at that same low heart rate, just by burning your own fat. That's ideally kind of where you want to be if you're using this method. I like using the Maffetone method, and I like using Zone 2 for the majority of my training. And it does work. It really, really does. And you know, watching what you eat, watching what you drink, watching the weather, like all these things all contribute to how you're going to see results with using the Maffetone method. It takes time. It takes dedication. It will test your patience. It will question your sanity on a number of occasions when you may not see results as fast as you want. I think it is a great way to run, stay injury free, enjoy running to start off. If you're a beginner, if you're an intermediate, if you're coming back from an injury, I think it's a great way to build an aerobic base over time without burning out. I think it's great to teach your body how to burn fat. These are all great ways that the Maffetone method or Zone 2 running can really help. There are some other sides to this that isn't the greatest. And one of them is your VO2 max will go down, right? Because you're not putting in that, you know, high intensity workout. So HIIT training is great for that. And the Maffetone method, aka, that's not what that's about, right? So will you see results if you do 80%, you know, Maffetone training, slow running, aka Zone 2, and then do 20% faster runs? Yeah, 100% you will, right? Because again, you're training an aerobic base, and then you're training your anaerobic base when you're doing a lot of the high intensity workouts. So that's one of the downsides when you're just running slow all the time. You're not having a more of a roundabout, like a well-rounded training plan. Spending too much time in base training can be very monotonous, and sometimes just people just quit and they're just like, I'm just done, I just want to do a little bit of faster running. And that's what they do. They switch over to 80-20, and I think that's a great thing. Using the Maffetone method, it's age related, and that can be problematic because everybody is different. So you may have a higher heart rate than most people, and if you do, then the Maffetone method may not work for you. You may be training too fast, you could be training too slow. You know, if you're younger, if you're in your 30s, you may not see it because you may be running too fast. There's a lot of those aspects to it. So when you're using it, like even if you're in your 60s even 50s, I mean late 50s. It's a little bit of a challenge trying to narrow down that number. And it is what it is, right? It's just the nature of age related training, in my opinion anyways. If you want to share your feelings down below, please do. I really encourage you, because we can all learn from what other people have to say. This is just kind of my take. It does take time, it does take patience, and it does take, I mean, you really got to be consistent. If you're not consistent in your training, I don't care what type of training you do, you're just not going to see the results you want to see. And again, how much running that includes is going to be different from one person to another. I mean, I've run like 100 miles in a week. I've run, 40 miles in a week. I've run 20 miles in a week. I've done all kinds of different testing, and to be quite frank, it's just all over the place when you're inconsistent. So when you're consistent, things happen, and it doesn't matter if you're doing slow running, faster running, whatever it is, you do see results. And as we get older, we all just want to just keep on moving. So the cadence that you're running at can be really, I know some people refer to it as kind of sloppy, like you're running really too slow, that your gait doesn't feel natural. And I've felt like that in the past as well. So when you switch over to 80-20, you're able to get those tempo runs, threshold runs, track work, whatever it is, you're able to get that in, and things really do start to change. You kind of feel a little bit different when you're running. So yeah, those are some of my feelings. So who is this for? So here's the most shocking thing that I would say with the whole Maffetone method way of training is, if you are a beginner, somebody that's never run before, you're so new to this, don't get hung up with the whole Maffetone method. Don't get hung up with the whole 180 minus your age, plus or minus, all that kind of stuff. Don't go down that rabbit hole. What I would suggest is just walk. Just get out for a walk each and every day and start at that point. And once you've been walking for a couple of months regularly and you feel the weight starting to drop off, then maybe start to do a run walk program where you run for a minute, walk for a minute, run for a minute, walk for a minute, and then just slowly work your way up. I find that is probably the best way to get into all of this. And then maybe after a number, like once you're able to run like a 5K, then maybe start taking a real hard look at using the Maffetone method and see where it can lead and where it can help you. So anyways, that's my little shocking confession, I guess you could say, with using the whole Maffetone method. I think you pretty much already have guessed who it's for. If you want to dive into a little bit more of what some of the Maffetone method myths are, then this video right here on the screen will help you discover what those myths are. And like I always say, get out and run. See you next week.